So being in California and you're going back to LA, I mean, obviously your influences seem to have a very kind of Laurel Canyon vibe about them anyway. So it would seem right that you're kind of being around there. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, totally. I think that it's kind of inevitable that where you are on some level dictates what inspires you and what you write. I actually just found out this very fun thing though, that one of a huge influence of mine is Linda Perhacs, and she did this album in 1970 called Parallelograms. That was it didn't really do very well, but it was later kind of looked at, I guess. And
right, that those things have a habit of rising again, don't
yeah,
they, after the fact?
and yeah, I've always loved that album. And I just found out that she actually is from the town that I'm living in right now in the Bay Area. So I've always felt so connected to that album. And I think it's just, so it kind of makes sense that, yeah, my influence, I grew up in the East, in the Bay Area in Northern California. So it made sense to me. That's why
Right.
I connected it to so
Right.
deeply to that music. But yeah, your original question, Laurel Canyon, yeah, of course, that's,
Of course.
a part of it. Kind of hard to
See, it's
escape
kind
it.
of exciting that Joni Mitchell seems to kind of be re-emerging because she was very unwell for a while and she's making appearances and
I
talking.
know,
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. She's,
So let's talk about your record. It's called
yeah.
Candlepower, and it's 7 tracks. I think it's like 18 minutes long. So that's interesting in itself. Tell me a little bit about the background of getting to this point of releasing these 7 tracks and kind of where you were when you were writing and who you were.
Yeah, I mean, some of the songs, it's sort of like a collection of songs that, like the oldest song I think I wrote is about 3 years old, and then the early, or the latest song that that I wrote on the album is from 2020, from being in quarantine.
Uh-huh.
So it sort of stretches time a little bit, and the fact that it's kind of a shorter album, and we're pushing it as an album, but it's in between an EP and a full length, is largely just like a financial reason, and because I did this all DIY,
Oh, yeah.
and sort of just on the generosity and goodwill of my friends who are amazing musicians, and we all live in LA, so I found a couple people that really put a lot into it. And yeah, we just kind of worked through. I didn't really expect, this all to happen in a way. But I definitely, I did and I didn't, because I, of course, that was like the biggest intention in the world. But at the same time, I was totally happy with just having this be what it was, or whatever it became of
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the length of it really has to do more with money than anything else.
Fair enough. That's good enough reason.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed there was a quote somewhere that I read was like, every song is a tick box of influences. And some people love to wear their influences on their sleeves. Others are cringe every time you throw some name at them and they don't quite right. So I'm assuming that you don't mind being compared to somebody, and especially since it's your first record, so you have to start somewhere. Well, tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what it is, and it's nice to be compared to people that I grew up listening to, Karen Carpenter and Joni Mitchell. It feels a little funny to be compared to them, but I don't really, I think the first couple of releases, they have kind of like a quality to them that feel more Laurel Canyon. I feel like the rest of the album really isn't like that, but
Right.
yeah, I guess, going, there's like a certain level of breadth in the album, kind of as like strategy so that I wouldn't be so like, so that I couldn't be so categorized, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's just what happens when you have no music out, and
Right.
they're not, you know, people that I don't like at all. So I'm happy to hear that, I guess.
So I'm curious because I mean I grew up listening to the Carpenters and Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and all those guys, but I'm significantly older than you. So how did that happen that you got drawn to that instead of what was being released, say, 15 years ago or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely listen to contemporary music too. But I learned really how to sing, and my voice is my primary instrument. That's how I write music, you know, is I hear it and I sing it, and that's how melodies emerge for me. And you know, when I usually just use instrumentation to accompany that. Um, so yeah, I mean, my parents obviously they introduced me to so much music
Yep.
growing up, and I was like raised on the Roches, and
Raised on the Roaches. I like
I was
that.
raised on the Roches, and they're still big in my life, and
Right.
um, they kind of have, there's like a cult following around them these days too.
Sure.
So um, you know, I think just because for voice, especially vocal, like the that time period really was vocal music in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how I learned how to sing, really, and just by imitating, you know, Mama Cass. And
I love
I mean,
Mama Cass.
even, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I really, that's how Emmylou Harris. I don't know how. I mean, I've been singing my whole life in choirs, and I later took voice lessons, and then I later on in school did a lot of experimental music. So, but yeah, I think because those are the most fun songs for me to sing, and that's how I learned how to sing. That was sort of the origin of my sensibilities, I guess.
Now the album begins with a song called "Oh Louise," and I see there's a video there of you kind of painting in a fruit orchard or something. And uh, there's, I'm curious as to what exactly is in your mind when you're writing this song.
I want the real thing. Why is that such a daydream? Sacred contracts that I have signed. So much trouble bringing darkness into light.
This song is actually about a specific person.
I had a feeling it might be.
Yeah, yeah. When I first moved to LA, about 4 years ago, I was really, I mean, I'm still pretty shy. And I remember going to all of these DIY shows and basement shows and these random kind of sketchy shows. And there's someone named Louise who circuits that scene a lot, and her band and group is called Banny Grove. And I think I was just so drawn to her music because she's such an amazing performer. And a lot of times, you know, right now in music, we're so saturated by or like the indie world, at least, you know, which is sort of my circle in LA,
Yeah.
is so saturated by vulnerability viewed as like sharing sorrow and pain. And I think I was just so drawn to her because she was she was so vulnerable, but she was sort of expressing this joy and playfulness. And I kind of felt like, wow, that, you know, that's actually even riskier. That's scarier to show someone, you know, your inner light,
Yeah.
because that's like your child self. So I was just really, it kind of sparked in me this this philosophy, I guess. And so the song is sort of, I mean, I don't really know her that well, so it's sort of this projection of who I imagine this character to be, which
Right.
also in turn helps me remember that part of myself.
Right, right. Speaking of philosophy, the second song is called Original Goodness. And then I realized, well, okay, there is that. I don't know if you're religious or not or whatever, but there's the concept of original sin, which, if you sit and think about it, is actually a pretty awful thing to be laid with. I mean, especially you hear about it when you're like 5 years old. You're
Yeah.
bad from the get-go.
Yeah.
So is that
Yeah.
what that's about?
Original goodness. Close your eyes and let it come to you. Sorry, on this side I can't look at you. From this side I can't look at you.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up going to church, and that's how I learned how to I was in church choirs. Those were my
Sure.
first singing experiences. My family wasn't religious, but definitely there's a thread of spirituality in my life through that, and also just lots of other variables that I could bore you with. But yeah, I guess original goodness is like the quality of yourself, again, similar to the what I was just sharing, but in a different form or context of the little nugget part of you that can't really get tampered with, basically.
Okay.
That is often hard to find and elusive, but exists. And I believe that that's in everyone, even the unfortunates. So yeah.
I do like the line, "I'm a lefty when I want to." It's just,
Yeah. Yeah, I was in an interview yesterday, and they were British, and they thought it was a political thing. So, but I just mean,
it's funny. I didn't even think of that because
yeah, I
I'm
know.
left-handed myself. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was like, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm right-handed, and I'm not a lefty when I want to at all, but
right.
you know, stretching the truth.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it just goes to show how different people, one word means one thing to another.
I know.
Just take you on another boom.
Journey. I know.
Let's see. Let's talk about Believer, because you're kind of referring to a friend, Sarah. You mentioned Hijira in there, so that's always exciting. What's happening there?
At night I wandered to deep silence, see the pearls awaken, it's looking at me. What terror I felt in the sand enmity, to fold it up into some kind of similarity. Yeah, I think this was like my in I was listening to a lot of Fiona Apple actually when this song was developing.
Uh-huh.
And but I love, I mean, Hijira is just like talk about a journey, you know. It's that one in the album, but I think I was kind of reimagining my own version of Coyote a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, I threw her in because she's just like, to me, it was like a reference to this other world, you know. And if you know it, then you know it. And if you don't know it, you can just skip that. Yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned you have a band of musicians that are playing with you on the record, and I do hear some horns, I think, in there somewhere and near the end. So tell me about the people you were working with making this record.
Yeah. Ben Varian, he was sort of the biggest collaborator. And he's an amazing musician. And he's actually the drummer of Chris Cohen's band. I don't know if you know Chris Cohen. But he also has his own project, which is called the Ben Varian Approach. And right up until the pandemic, I was singing in his band because he didn't want to sing his own music. And that was really fun. And it was just kind of this simpatico arrangement. And
Right.
he was yeah, he mixed the album, and then he also just played lots of different parts and tangents that um, that yeah, he helped kind of extract and translate.
Uh-huh. Okay. And there are horns in there somewhere?
Yeah, there are. My friend Logan Hone, um, he plays around. He's an amazing player, and he played saxophone
Yep.
on Oh Louise, and he played the flute on Belong Here.
Yes,
And
I
I
thought that was a flute.
think that's it. Yeah, and then my friend Jackie played harp on Believer. So, and my friend Phil Hartunian played clarinet on Ophelia.
Uh-huh.
It was like like kind of sourcing all these people from different studios, and um kind of, it was like a big puzzle basically of piecing it all together.
Right. So
And
let's say when you have a clarinet player or somebody playing the harp, do you just say, here's the song, see what you can do with it? Or do you have a part for them mapped out, or how does that work with you?
with the clarinet, I was in the studio with him, and I just sang the melody, and
Right.
then he played it. And yeah, we worked that out together. And yeah, I remember singing the harmony to him and working. It's just sometimes so not cool. You're just singing to someone and they're trying to follow you along. And then the harp, I think I kind of gave her like some key words or impressions that I wanted it to sound like. And I mean, the harp is so beautiful. You could play anything and it sounds like another dimension. So that was pretty easy to explain to her, and how she collaborated was perfect.
Right. Now you mentioned Belong Here, which has some flute in it. It also has a lyric that's kind of prescient. The California is on fire, New York is underwater. People kind of feel those things aren't actually happening, hopefully, but that's the way a lot of people feel about where things are in their world with everything happening. So when did you write that, and what were you thinking about?
California is on fire. New York is underwater.
That was the song that I actually, my oldest song.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I wrote that song maybe 3 years ago. One day on my little 4-track, actually. And yeah, it was much more layered with vocals at that point. But I was kind of just musing. I think I had just read some really sad Naomi Klein book. And, I think global warming or climate change or whatever, the earth dying, like you can't really, for me at least, like it's obviously so existential, and you can't really connect with how vast the feeling is. Like for me, like I can really only sustain what that feels like, or what that really means for like in these brief moments. And so it's kind of vaguely about that, and I mean pretty explicitly actually, but the song kind of like feels more vague, I guess.
Right. And I see there's a video for that as well, and there's also one for Sleeper Train. So when you're making a video, how much input do you have in it? Do you have a kind of concept of what you want? How do you approach visualizing?
Yeah, the visuals are funny. I mean, I feel like I studied painting for a while in school, and I love making costumes, and that's actually a lot of times like it kind of comes in tandem with writing music. I'll have some kind of, I mean, it sounds much more, trippier than I mean it, or woo-woo than I mean it, but yeah, not to I don't want to alienate anyone, but it kind of sometimes there are these little visions or pictures that you get. And with all of these videos, I mean, I needed help making them, but it was pretty clear what I wanted from it. And I made the Eloise video with my friend Rocco, and we sort of co-directed that, but I started making the cape first. And I also made the costume for Belong Here first.
Right.
So I kind of start there, and I love embroidering and using my hands that way. And a lot of times that's actually when music comes through me, because I think it's sort of like a meditation in a way. So yeah, they all kind of were born in different circumstances and with different resources. And the third one I actually made of Sleeper Train, I made with my dad, which was very sweet. And it was our first time. It was his first time filming and my first time editing, and we kind of whipped it together.
Buy me out of this broken bank, let the dove out of the cave, leave the dirt that remains. I am dreaming on my sleeper train, waking when the rain falls down a refrain.
Cool.
It was fun.
That's very nice. So the album is out on June 4th. What have you got planned for the day?
That day,
Yeah.
well, I have, let's see, I'm moving back to LA
Yep.
next week. So I'll probably be in the midst of that. But that day, I think a rough trade interview comes out, and then I want to have some friends who helped make it, like just hang out in a park or something. And it was such a collaborative project, and so many people were so generous with their time, and I ended up paying people retroactively once I got signed to Fire. But it really was like, I mean, it was only possible because people were so kind. So I just want to share that with them.
Yeah. And are you able to do live shows, or is that still not on the cards yet?
That is being kind of sorted out right now. There is a tour kind of coming together, a UK tour, at the end of November, early December.
Right. Yeah.
So that should be really fun. And
is that with a band, or do you do it solo, or how do you
I think that one I'm going to just do solo and then go from there. But
Cool.
I'm really eager to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, maybe you can come down to New Zealand sometime.
That would be really fun. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yes. Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. Hope it all goes well when the record comes out. And
thank you.
excellent. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.